I'm from India, Asia.
How do you think people or society perceive you since you're a minority?
I don't think they've perceived me anything different over here. I have quite a number of Americans in my class. There are also some Chinese in my class. I don't think they've perceived anything different. Even the teachers are quite. I mean, it's the same. There's no difference. I don't think there's any difference. And they've been really helpful also. I mean, when we've asked some questions and all, they've been really helpful. I don't think there's any difference in
What are some disadvantages and advantages of being a minority?
uh, over here, you mean in
Yeah.
America?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have not exactly come across any advantage or disadvantage as such. It's just normal, like others.
And what are some values installed by your culture?
Well, in India, we respect our Indians, our elders a lot. We respect our books a lot. We, we are not supposed to touch our books and all with our legs and all. We consider it as a very serious thing. We also respect the same way about our food. And we are a very religious people, spiritual people, if you want to say.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of.
Okay.
Can you start off by stating your race?
I'm an African American.
Okay, so do you think people like on campus like have a certain type of perspective on you?
I'm sorry.
Do you think people view you with like a certain like perspective, like that they view you in a certain way?
I think that there is that connotation that comes along with African Americans, especially males, to be that loud and obnoxious people, as well as not taking seriousness to their studies or being an athlete.
All right. What are some disadvantages? What are some disadvantages and advantages of being a minority?
I think some disadvantages would be you go into a room full of white people, I guess, if you're a person of color or a minority, and they just kind of seclude you from the group. That could be a major disadvantage, as you don't feel comfortable in that setting. When you go into something like that, you tend to look for your own people. If they're not there, then you just don't feel included. So such different inclusions would is a disadvantage. I feel like an advantage would be that we are black, we are minorities, so we're here to, I guess, prove a point and to make a difference.
Last question. What are some values installed in by your culture?
By my
Culture.
my values and so on.
Yeah. What are some values that are installed by your culture?
I'm not an athlete. You mean by me
No, I
coaching?
mean like what kind of
Yeah,
culture?
Oh.
Like values that you grew up with.
Okay. I grew up to take seriousness to my education as well as my demeanor, to always be respectful, especially to women. I think that's very important in today's culture. That's
about it.
I'd like to also ask, do you think there's still racial issues here on campus?
very much so. I think racism is still here, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's just for us to not adhere to the stereotypes, and I guess go beyond what they are expecting of us.
And you don't have to go into detail, but I'm assuming that you have witnessed such types of incidents here.
Sure.
What's your race, and how do you think people view you on campus?
Okay, so my parents were born in India, so I'm Indian American. I was born in Dayton, Ohio. Went my entire life Dayton, Ohio, so I came here, did my undergrad at UC, finished in 3 years, now I'm working on my MBA, and next fall I start med school. So basically Southwest Ohio my entire life, but my ethnicity is like Indian.
Yeah. So how do you think people like view you on campus? Like.
Okay. Yeah, so I think just from a very like superficial perspective, people know that I'm a minority. A lot of people are kind of confused on like what exactly my ethnicity is. I think that's because like most Indian people have like darker skin and darker eyes, so it's like kind of confusing. Like I look like I could be from a lot of different places. So I always get that question. People always like, "Where are you from?" And I like to joke with them. I'll be like, "I'm from Dayton, Ohio," and they'll just be like, "Where are your parents from?" Like I know what they really mean, but it's just fun to like just mess with them a little bit.
So what are some disadvantages and advantages of being a minority?
Okay. Honestly, I haven't really had any disadvantages with it. I don't know if it's just because like Indian Americans have the stereotype of being like good in school and like hardworking and stuff. So like people, actually the only disadvantage of that is whenever I'm doing group projects, people are like always trying to be in my group, especially when I was in like freshman chem lab and stuff. Everyone was like, that kid's Indian, I want to be in his group. It was like kind of a pain. So I guess that would be a disadvantage, being like stereotypes, even though the stereotypes are positive, and actually do apply in this case. I actually am going to medical school, so the stereotype of like all Indians wanting to be doctors is actually like true in this case. There are advantages. I think it gives me a lot of different perspectives. So like I'm able to combine like a Western view of stuff with like an Eastern view of stuff. Like I have the immigrant mentality of like hard work that I got from my parents, but at the same time like I've had like all this exposure to American culture with, you know, like the ideas of like the importance of innovation and teamwork and stuff. And so I think I can combine that, and that's what allows me to be like uniquely successful compared to people that are either just like grow up in a Western culture or grow up in an Eastern culture. Also, UC gives a lot of like financial support to minorities. Like I got a minority undergraduate scholarship, and I also got a minority graduate scholarship. So it's also helped fund my education.
Last question. What are some values installed by your culture?
Okay. I'd say one of the biggest ones is respect, especially like respect for elders. Like it's in Indian culture, you always, when you meet someone older than you, especially grandparents, but like parent level as well, the first thing you're supposed to do is like do this and say namaste, which is like welcome, and then you touch their feet. And it's like, it's not the actual touching of the feet that's important, it's the like symbolism of like showing deference to someone older than you.
Yeah.
So I'd say like respect for everyone, and especially people who are like older and wiser than you, is like a big thing. Also, like I think hard work is like the biggest thing. Like refusing to quit. That's like something my parents instilled in me. It's like, you know, the only reason I'm here today is because my dad was able to work hard enough to like be eligible for a PhD program, and so like I've kind of like learned that from like my parents, like the importance of just trying your best no matter what you're doing.
Did UC perceive you differently because of your race, or stereotype you at all?
No, actually not much, because you just have a bunch of different places people here, so everybody is really friendly and give you a hand when you feel really lonely or you have some problem at school, something else like including the life and studying, what else.
Okay. What are some values you grew up with? Like respecting elders, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, except for respect to people is basically fundamental things for everybody to get away with that. So, I mean, whatever you are American or Asian or European, so everybody need to learn how to respect everybody in here. So, because here is really freedom place. Yeah.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of being a minority?
Actually, I'm not really sure about the disadvantage, but I mean, everything I'm here chilling with my friends, American friends, or else, so everybody is really cool here also.
So that's cool, like you're able to associate with other people.
Yeah, sure. So it's really nice to get along with everybody here.
Okay. How do you think people or society perceive you?
Well, I think people in society, when they first look at me, they see, oh, there's this little black girl, what is she about to do, you know? They kind of see me as a token in a way, like, you know, she's going to do X, Y, and Z, but in reality, that's not what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to get my degree, I'm going to go to law school if that's what I choose to do, and stuff like that. Like, I'm going to do what people don't think I'm going to do.
Are there any? What are the disadvantages and advantages of being a minority here?
Disadvantages, I would say people stereotype you really often. You always get that kind of look, like even when you're in class, usually I'm the only black person in there, or like the only black girl, or one of the very few. So that's a disadvantage, is that you don't see much of yourself in the classroom. But an advantage, I would say, is that I think you're more open to other perspectives in a way, depending on the person. I think you're open to more perspectives.
What are some values instilled by your culture, or what are some values that you grew up with as a child?
As a child, my parents always told me to work 2 times harder than the next person and work 3 times harder than the minority person. So it's just that work ethic that they instill in me, to work harder, to do better, and to be just the best that you can be.
Do you feel like there's still racial issues here on campus, or have you witnessed anything personally?
I do feel like there's still racial issues on campus. Most recently, the comic about Dean Ronald Jackson and Carol Tong Mack is most recent. There were some protesters at the 10Y speaking, and they had some vulgar signs with them. But I mean, I think the best thing that we can do is to keep bringing speakers and keep the conversation going about it. And I feel like that'll defuse, hopefully, a lot of the racism here.
Thank you. That was good. I think that was probably the most in-depth interview that we've had. So.
That was awesome.
All right. So what's your background?
Cambodian.
Okay. Do you think society perceives you differently than you actually are because of your background?
Yeah, they always think that I'm like super smart or something because I'm Asian when I'm really not. I'm just an average person.
Okay. Do you feel like there are any racial issues on campus, or have you witnessed any?
Yeah, I've actually been made fun of several times, like just being Asian. They'll just walk by, like saying things that they think are like Chinese or something. Like they'll just make fun of me that way.
Okay. I think that's good.
Thank you so much. This part right here will be cut out now.
What part?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh yeah, the very end.
Why would you just? Okay.
Hey, Naya. This is gonna be on the bloopers like at the end of the PowerPoint.
What?
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
What's up, Nick?
Stop that.
Okay.
Stop.
Damn, why my shoestrings look purple?
Generally, I guess it's like black, I guess, instead of like mixed, because people generally don't know.
Okay. What are some values instilled by your culture? That's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one because I don't really know if I
Or
have
what are
a
some
culture.
values you grew up with? Like just in general. Like you don't have to say
I mean-
culture specific or anything like.
I don't really know. I mean, like I grew up like in a Christian household, so I guess
Okay.
that could be like a common American thing. It's
Yeah.
like growing up in a Christian household. I don't really have like a specific
Mm-hmm.
culture. I don't think besides the
Yeah.
American one.
I feel it. Do you feel like there are any racial issues on campus, or have you ever witnessed any racial incidents?
I've never like witnessed anything, but like I feel like there are some kind of like tensions because it comes from like all over like the world here. So like there's people here that like don't really identify with like other people, or like some people who segregate themselves and like seclude themselves in like certain groups. So it's like I guess there's kind of is, but at the same time there kind of isn't.
That's a good answer. Yeah, I was just gonna say, just because, like some of these people, like this is the most diversity they've ever seen in their life. I've talked to a lot of people who are just from like really small towns, and I mean they're cool and all that, but it's just a different setting for them, you know. But yeah, so I feel like definitely some of the international students, like, I mean, obviously it makes sense for them to talk to people among their own cultures,
They
like.
kind of like stick together.
Yeah, I don't feel like I don't know. It'd be cooler if we can get something going, like where people are, you know, getting together more rather than just secluding themselves.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah. That people on the campus look at you differently?
Yes, I think I do because I play football, and like football players get more like favoritism on campus.
What are the disadvantages and advantages of being a minority?
I really don't know. I think everybody is equal on this campus, like all African Americans, Caucasians, and every other race.
What are some values installed by your culture?
What was that question again?
What are some values installed by your culture?
By my coaching,
It's about your culture though, like what kind of
my
values
culture.
did you grow up with, like that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, actually, like, I grew up not having a lot, so, like, by me being in college now and getting, like, more popular and more recognized about things makes me feel better.
Perceive you in society.
I feel like I'm perceived as just like sucky seconds. Like I never have first priorities or anything. I always gotta work twice as hard just to be equal to someone else.
Okay. What are some disadvantages and advantages of being a minority?
I say an advantage is you always have a chip on your shoulder because you know the world doesn't respect you nor want you. So you always gotta work twice as hard. The disadvantage is you don't have equal opportunity, or you have to work harder to get that same opportunity as someone that's not a minority.
Okay, last, what are some values installed by your culture?
I would say just to be my best, do my best, to better my best, not to settle for nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Is he recording?
Yeah, what race are you?
Oh, Costa Rican.
Do you think people or society perceive you differently since you're a minority?
No, I don't think they do because they don't really know what I am.
What are some disadvantages and advantages of being a minority?
An advantage would be I got into college easier. I guess a disadvantage would be that since no one can tell what I am, they always ask me, and it gets kind of annoying.
And what are some values installed by your culture?
Catholicism, and definitely to like respect your mothers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you think society perceives you differently because of your background?
I think the society perceives me different because of my skin color, because I feel like that the society don't know my background, so they want them to basically judge my character as in seeing that they never met me before.
Do you think there are any racial issues on campus, or have you witnessed anything?
Yes, I do believe there's racial problems with this campus. There's a lot of times where I've been walking down the street and I'll be walking behind somebody and then they'll stop and let me pass them, and then they'll start walking right behind me, or they're just walking the street. That I grew up with would be to always strive and work for what you want to achieve, and I guess don't let nobody tell you that it's not possible.
Okay, that's cool. I think